Welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting. My name is Ryan Austin. I am the chairperson. So let's go around and do a quick roll, Joe.
Joe Eichstead, City Engineer.
Ryan Austin, District 1 Alderman.
Sherry Evanson, District 5.
Dennis Pollack, Ward 6.
Jay Bemke, District 8.
Thank you. Okay, item number 1, call the meeting to order. The meeting is now called to order. Item number 2, review the bid results for the West Riverview Expressway Traffic Signal Improvement Project and consider awarding the contract to the low qualified bidder. Mr. Eichstead?
So just a real quick background for general public and new committee members. This project is a signal improvement project. It's funded mostly or in part 90% DOT funding, 10% local funding for signal improvements along the expressway at Chase Street, West Grand, and High Street. And the project has been advertised for bid for several weeks now. I believe there were 5 plan holders that had pulled plans. Unfortunately, last Friday at 9 o'clock when we did the bid opening, there were no bids that were submitted. So the consultant went and did a little investigative work. That's the memo that was handed out prior to the meeting here. Van Eert Electric, they were unable to complete the work within the timeline required for the project. Pember Companies was a prime contractor that was looking at bidding, but they couldn't find an electrical contractor to do the work. And then Merkel Companies, they didn't specifically state what some of their issues, except perhaps railroad involvement and different things. So try to do a little fact finding to see what may have been concerns from the contractors. We don't have a definitive plan moving forward at this point. Still working with the consultant on next steps, but we'd likely continue to revise, come up with a new strategy and decide if we're going to perhaps rebid, advertise for bids again later this fall, or perhaps for next spring. I guess it's speculating. Never quite sure what the real issues are. The project is somewhat complex in relationship to the railroad and the coordination that's required there. We also have the West Jackson Street project, which is ongoing throughout the construction season. There's also supply chain issues with some of the equipment to kind of head off some of those issues. The city has already ordered some of the signal poles, which had almost a 6-month lead time. So they're anticipated to arrive mid-October. So for all of those potential reasons, those are all things that may be factors. But for the time being, I guess we don't have any bids to award at this time. And we'll, I guess, revisit re-advertising and trying to secure a contractor for the project.
So do you need any action from us on this then, Joe, or?
No action.
Okay. Any questions for Joe? Sherry?
I just have one question. I know it was the intent of this committee to do a little background and to pay for a consultant to investigate any railroad, possibly, quiet zones and those kinds of things. Is this anything, if we went ahead and we did get a bid for this, that we would be doing work that we would be undoing for any possibility of that project? Or is it something that we should wait and tie in until we figure out what the recommendations come from that study? I'm not sure. Thank you.
Yeah, to some degree, they're somewhat parallel projects. I guess not knowing what direction that the railroad study, the feasibility study, what direction that will actually head in, and at what time frame in the future, and funding for whatever proposed work that project might entail. We do have specific safety needs with the 3 intersections. I guess the no bid situation that we have here does buy us some extra time to evaluate what comes of the railroad study.
Joe, can you clarify what safety needs would be addressed with the updated traffic signals?
So the primary safety need is the preemption coordination with the railroad. So anytime a train comes through and approaches one of the signalized intersections, it prompts or tells the traffic controller that, hey, a train's coming, we need to start up a different timing plan to clear out the traffic in the grade crossing and then sit on green on the expressway and service only limited phases on the other approach while the train occupies the crossing. Once the train's gone, then it times out and it goes back into normal operations thereafter. That's the primary impetus for the project. Other things that will be upgraded, just things that are getting, I guess, dated and starting to see some malfunctioning with the vehicle detection. So we've got loops in the pavement currently, and they'll be upgraded to camera detection with this project. We'll upgrade the traffic controllers to better account for the railroad preemption programming that we need to install. Some of the signal poles and the lighting, those will be upgraded, as well as flashing yellow arrows for the left turn lanes.
And is this a use it or lose it scenario for us this year, or?
I don't believe there's a sunset date on the funding, but I will be updating the DOT on the results, the zero bid situation that we have here, and what our proposed plan is moving forward.
I just have one question on that funding. Will that, by waiting, will that stay at that 535,000?
Yeah, the funding is currently locked in. I guess maybe the more concerning part is depending on where bid pricing will come in, in say 6 months or whenever we rebid it, if we get a contractor. But the funds that are identified in the grant, they're set aside.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody else? Okay, moving on. Item number 3, review and approve the conditions for a street privilege permit for Meatwater Foundation Incorporated. Joe?
So I'll do a quick introduction of this, and then Sue, if there's anything you want to add, feel free. Again, just a little bit of background. I think around June of 2021, there was work performed by 2 contractors within the city's right-of-way along West Grand Avenue for the installation of private infrastructure between properties on either side of the roadway. This work was done without a permit. It led to the Public Works Committee and council action in August of 2021, and I included those minutes in the packet for reference. Since that time, there has been continued discussion, somewhat disputing some of the conditions that were put together and approved at the August 2021 committee meeting. Some of the rationale and complicating factors, I guess, regarding that situation, both Sue Schill and myself acknowledge some of those factors, especially given the unique nature of this issue. This isn't something that happens very often, if ever, for this type of scenario. So anyway, conversations have continued over the past 9 months or so, and in hopes of arriving at a more agreeable position among the list of permit conditions. So the August 2021 Public Works meeting There was a list of conditions that were proposed and approved. Again, since that time, there's been some negotiations in hopes of arriving at a more agreeable position. Those conditions are listed. The two items that were, I guess, removed or reduced. One is remove the cost of potential future liabilities due to the borehole across West Grand Avenue. The original conditions was set at a cost of $13,055 to limit the city's liability if anything happened to the road structure above that borehole. The second item was that the Meatwater Foundation would not need to file with Diggers Hotline and mark their private infrastructure across the public right-of-way, which I think is, the end result is if that utility is not marked, that piece of private infrastructure is not marked, it would, if it was impacted due to excavation, it would either need to be repaired privately by a private contractor, or it would, hence to, I guess it would just stop working at that point and forgo the use of that private infrastructure. Certainly there may be some questions here. Sue, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that?
I don't believe so. I think what's listed in the referral in terms of the conditions, I think it's fair and reasonable. It's a result of a lot of conversation back and forth involving kind of the history of the street privileges and previous right-of-way incursions that we've approved, and trying to be fair and consistent, and also taking into account the specific circumstances of this privilege right-of-way permit. So I would recommend that the conditions be modified as contained in the referral. And I believe Meatwater Foundation is in agreement with these conditions as well.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions or comments? Jerry?
I've done some background on there, and I remember this taking place last year. So they went under the road, did their own work without a permit, and they dug under the street. So if something happens to the road work, if the road needs to be redone and that infrastructure underneath that's private, are we still going to be liable for that? I know that's kind of what you're talking about, but I just want any future liability for us, or if, and I remember last year when you guys were talking that if it needed to be dug up and it was, because it's not marked because we didn't do the work on our maps. So that was just kind of confusing to me. It was work that shouldn't have been done in the first place without a permit, and now we're kind of just settling just so they can move on with this.
Yeah, so a couple points on that. So the payment in lieu of remediation, I guess if you call it, that $13,000, that wasn't known at the time of the Public Works Committee meeting in August, that dollar amount. The general condition that was approved was that there would be a payment to limit the city's future liabilities, if any. And that's what the value was that was determined. Given that there's 9 months here that has elapsed, or I guess a year since the work has occurred, I would think that somewhat limits because we haven't seen any manifestation of any issues at this point yet. So that also limits the city's potential future liability. But to answer your question, yes, if there is something that would yet to happen in the future, it's the city street.
And then would we have to replace that infrastructure that they put, the boring that they did? I believe it's for water, is that right?
It is for
from
water,
the river.
yes.
So if that was damaged, would we have to replace that then as well?
No, that would, I believe that would, can't remember the full list of conditions here, if that would either need to be repaired or it would cease to be a private asset in the public right-of-way.
And you as a professional, and I know Sue, you've been working on this as well, feel that this is a viable agreement that would be fair for the city in the future then as well?
Yeah, by and large, the bulk of the other conditions, I mean, those were the only two conditions that were reduced or removed. And so all the other conditions are as we had put together initially and the council had approved in August of last year.
One more question, and there was, I know the original paperwork had said that there was an amount, an amount per day that it wasn't complied with to get the permits, but because it's not right, they couldn't get the permit. Those aren't going to be included in this as well, correct? Or am I missing something?
Yeah, so, right, those are not going to be included. I guess technically a permit hasn't been issued yet. It was an after-the-fact permit to begin with, and no permit has been issued yet because of, I guess, ongoing conversations.
Joe, I just have one question here. Then, are you saying then that basically this is the end of this particular item, and then both sides are content with what
Yep.
they agreed to? So
Both are in agreement at this point, and, once, if council, committee and council were to approve the modifications, we would, we'd be able to issue the permit, and, I think everything else has been complied with, as far as insurance and, get receipt of the street privilege permit and any degradation fees. And, yeah, so we could, both parties could move forward.
okay, thank you.
Just one thing to add to this. It wasn't my recollection is it wasn't a blatant disregard of permitting. It was assumption that one or the other contractor had that in their scope of work to procure, and it was kind of an after the fact kind of, oh, we didn't get permitting kind of a deal. So again, it wasn't blatant. And I mean, if you look at what the water is supplying the park that is nearly complete, it is quite the addition to our community. So it's a tough spot to be in, and I feel like a little grace, in my opinion, is warranted in this scenario. So, Tom, do you have something?
Yeah, because I believe I voted against it. I think this goes back to last fall. I think when it came to the council, not on the committee, because of how it was done. Without the permit and that. And I guess I have just a question of Joe. Several weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, there were 3 barrels on Grand Avenue. Did that have to do with this project at the end of the bridge here?
Just a few weeks ago?
Well, several weeks ago now. I'm not sure what it'd be.
No, I don't know what those were for.
They were in the middle of Grand Avenue on this side, so I was just wondering. So, but it's another one of these yachts that, good when it's over, but that's why we have the rules and processes and and what to go through. And all these contractors have been around long enough. They're not new guys on the block. They know what the rules are without opening the book even. As far as I'm concerned, I think there was a fast one that tried to be pulled through, shoved through, which was done. And they tried to get away with it. Now, you can do what you want to do with it. That's up to you. Compromise or whatever settlement is one thing. I don't know that strong enough language has been used with the people in this. I can remember this became quite a discussion point last fall. And we got a couple other items that'll be coming on our council tonight of after the fact. To approve things, and why didn't the company come forward and ask for a thing before the end result? I've been around long enough. I thought we'd got to the end of being played for a chump. But I guess it's not. There are still those that think, yeah, come up after the fact. We know we want it. They'll give it to us. It's 99% built. How are they going to say no? Or how are they going to make us change it? It's so good for the community. So wonderful. Who's going to be the ass to say no? Well, I've had enough of it. And that's why then I made sure to get here tonight. I could have Zoomed her in. It's better to be in person. It's easier to follow, that's for sure. Let's just the thing is, something like this. There's no way it should even got to this. They knew what they had to do. And if it had to delay something, it had to delay something to try and get a permit. And if that was the thing that we couldn't wait for, you're still waiting for that park to be open. Half a year and more later. So the correct procedure could have been done and could have been followed. I guess without just going on, probably saying the same thing over and over, and I think probably most land deaf ears anyway. The council will make the decision at their meeting tonight, and we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Tom. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Bemke.
So in this agreement, we're requiring insurance. What does that insurance cover?
Well, it's just that that they need to be covered as an entity. I mean, we're not allocating risk or giving responsibility to either party. So it's just going to be relied upon if something happens, the responsible party, will ultimately be responsible. I guess I'm not sure. I mean, so they're giving us proof of insurance as they did when they requested the street permit. That's part of the street permit application, is to show proof of insurance.
Thank you.
I guess if I could just add, the contractor who started excavating in the street without a permit, I mean, that permit fee was doubled, and the degradation costs were doubled, which totals over $1,200 of extra fees and expenses of a punitive penalty nature to the contractor regarding this project.
Mayor Blazer?
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to speak in support of it. This agreement mirrors more so of the other street privileges that have been granted up and down First Street North, and some other locations in the community that extend piping through the right-of-way to access the river. And this agreement's more in line with what those other people were charged. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to this? Hearing none, what are committee's wishes?
Mr. Chairman, are you looking for a motion to move this on to the council, or?
Yes, I'm looking for a motion to consider the modified conditions.
Well, I'll so move.
And I'll second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor, respond with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, moving on. Item number 4. Review the referral list. Joe?
I don't have any other specific referrals that were added to it. I guess if there are other items to add or remove, we can certainly do that.
Joe, so if I wanted to have you kind of look at the Baker Street on the north side, is that something I need to make a referral, or is that just something?
Oh, yeah, we could do it at any time, or if there's, I mean, I'm aware of that situation, so if that's something that you want added to the referral list, then, we can prepare something for future meeting.
That sounds good. Could we do that?
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's consider modifying the pavement marking to include parking on Baker Street, the north side from, say, 5th Street to 8th Street.
Yeah, I think, is that the first road after the courthouse?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah. Thank you.
We should be able to cross some of these items off at next meeting. I think we can leave it as is for the time being.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 5, set the next meeting date. So we have one of our committee members is looking to get to the second week in July due to vacation. So Thursday, the 14th. Joe, can you see if council chambers are available?
Looks like there's a committee of the whole at 5 o'clock that evening.
Okay.
First floor conference room.
5 o'clock.
I was thinking it was the 17th. I thought committee of the whole. Maybe I'm wrong.
This would be, we're talking the 14th.
Yeah, that's what it shows for the 14th of July.
What's up? Yeah. Okay. Is there any other day of the week that works for you two, that particular week? No. What about 4 o'clock on Thursday then? Can we do that? The 14th.
Oh, on the 14th? What time is the committee of the whole?
5.
I can try. I'm not,
Sure.
I don't have my work calendar, but,
Sure.
so I'm not sure if that would work or not. We can try.
Okay. You want to pencil us in for 4 o'clock on the 14th? And then, Sherry, if you have any issues, just by all means. Okay. Okay, item number 6, adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll make that motion. All in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.